What's up, NBA fan? What's up, all sports fan? This your boy JB, host of the Behind the Bench Podcast Network channel, giving a shout out to the rest of the crew. For everyone who's tuning in, thank you for supporting Behind the Bench. Subscribe to the channel. Help make this show the best that it could be. Boy, let's dig in, man. Let's dig in. The NBA, man. And what's beautiful about sports is, you have some teams, man, that incrementally, year by year, improve until they are ready to vie for the championship. I think one of the best case scenarios were the bad boy Pistons. They really had to, like during the 80s, they would reach the playoffs, and then the next year they got upset in the first round. And then from there they went to the conference semifinals, the conference finals, then the NBA finals, and then they won the championship, and they went back to back. I mean, they really had to go through a lot of struggle to reach the top. And then the Chicago Bulls of the late 80s, before they started the dynasty run of the 90s, then the Kobe and Shaq years. They had to go through a lot, man. They, before they start winning those championships, the three-peat. And the Denver Nuggets, they went through a 6-7 year journey to become champions, but a team that was left for dead and left for dead twice over a 15-year period are the Cleveland Cavaliers, man. And I know Dan Gilbert is smiling from east to west because he was criticized and abused so much by these talking heads on these sports shows. Same thing is going on with my squad now, the Los Angeles Lakers. They'll say the same thing. The owner is terrible. The front office is inept. The management is dysfunctional. The organization is trash. It's the same lingo. And I'm gonna tell you, as a basketball fan, fans should get tired of hearing that. When something is said like that consistently about their team. And I'm sick and tired of hearing that every day when it comes to the Lakers. And I get upset about it because they was headed in a beautiful direction and they gave it all up for the hurricane. And now they're confused in a way where they don't know which direction to go. They're stuck right there in neutral, digging deep into the rabbit hole. But the Cleveland Cavaliers, they weathered this storm, man. They weathered this storm. They did it with a tremendous amount of character. And Dan Gilbert, I know he would never give this up again. I know he wouldn't, because the Cleveland Cavaliers, not only do they sit atop the Eastern Conference with a 2-game lead over the defending champion Boston Celtics, who Cleveland beat last week, rallying from behind to beat Boston at home to tie their regular season series up 1 game apiece. But they have the league's best record. They boast the best record in the NBA, 21 wins, 3 losses, starting the season off 15-0. And when you see a team like this, man, you can't, a team like this, man, generates a magical presence about themselves, man, where you say to yourself, man, this team, look like they ready to vie for a championship. And they have all the components, man. And I'm going to share something. Cleveland almost folded as an organization back in 2010. And when their superstar player left them for the second time, they could have been left for broke. But instead, they weathered the storm. And I'm going to tell you what benefited this franchise. Number one, when their past superstar left them again, they held on to that first round pick they had, and they wound up drafting Darius Garland. That was huge for them. Then they benefited from the James Harden trade. When James Harden asked to be traded, forced to be traded from the Houston Rockets to the Brooklyn Nets during midway of the 2020-21 season. In return, Cleveland received a number of draft picks, first round picks, and they received an infusion of young players. Jared Allen, you know what I'm saying? And then later on, they drafted Evan Mobley. Then they acquired Karis LeVert. And then later on, they traded for a star player, Donovan Mitchell from the Utah Jazz. Then they brought in some nice, key ancillary pieces like, Dean Wade, who's been a part of their fixture for some years. And then they brought in Orje Yang from the Philadelphia 76ers, who used to play for the Utah Jazz. He's a very good, capable three-point shooter. And now they built up their chemistry over time. But if you notice, all these teams that were pushed to trade their star player and acquired multiple assets, primarily draft picks and some young talent, do you realize all those teams are ahead of the teams that they traded their superstar away to? Cleveland is ahead of the Brooklyn Nets. When they were in win-now mode with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, they're ahead of the Brooklyn Nets. Oklahoma City Thunder are ahead of the Clippers, right? And the Houston Rockets, this is a team that lost James Harden. So really you can say, theoretically, the Houston Rockets and Oklahoma City Thunder are ahead of the Clippers. Now, the Clippers are playing hard to start the season, but they're not going to do anything without Kawhi Leonard. And Kawhi Leonard is probably, he's on the other side of his prime now. He's 33 years old, going on 34 years old. And they lost Paul George in free agency as he signed with the Sixers. What I'm saying is all these teams that were left for broke and was the butt of jokes just a couple of years ago, look where they're at now. They're either sitting atop the conference. Look, Cleveland's sitting atop the Eastern Conference, ahead of the two games ahead of the defending world champion Boston Celtics, and the Oklahoma City Thunder is sitting in first place again, just like they were last year. Once they took over first place in the West last year, they never relinquished it. For the most part, it was kind of OKC. Early on, Minnesota Timberwolves, who had a best season last year, went to the conference finals. Under the Anthony Edwards era of T-Wood basketball. Was mainly in the West, it was Minnesota early on. Clippers got their first place for a minute when they got hot from the James Harden trade. Denver took over the OKC. So it was a tussle between OKC, Minnesota, Denver. And then OKC wound up clinching the West by a game over, I believe, Denver and Minnesota. Cleveland, they have made a tremendous improvement from last year as they advanced to the conference semifinals in the East last year, and they were shorthanded going up against Boston in the playoff because Donovan Mitchell got hurt, and I believe they were missing Jared Allen, who they acquired from the Brooklyn Nets, and he's one of the better centers in the NBA. He's definitely one of the better defensive centers. He's a great rebounder, and he can give you 20 points on a given night. You know what I'm saying? And he could be a deterrent in the paint as far as shot blocking, when needed. They got a legitimate power forward in Evan Mobley, who scored 40 points, I believe, yesterday versus the Charlotte Hornets. And Donovan Mitchell, they got a steady point guard in Darius Garland, who can break his man off the dribble, get people involved. And they playing position basketball. They're not playing positionless basketball. And you got a star player in Spider Mitchell, who is one of the all-time greatest. He's one of the all-time leaders in points per game average in the postseason, averaging like 28 points a game. So that's right there with Kevin Durant and the Hurricane, people like that. The logo, Jerry West, you know what I'm saying? AI, Allen Iverson, people like that. Now, Jordan still holds that record, though. Jordan averaging like 33.4 in the playoffs, so something like that. But nonetheless, I'm just saying they got a superstar player, man, who can take control of a game at the end. He can hit big shots for you, man. And I always like Spider Mitchell, man. Doing his years in Utah, but I believe this Cleveland team is stronger than the Utah team with Gobert and Mike Conley. This team is more well-rounded, and I believe they're just as good on defense, if not slightly better. You know what I'm saying? So all these teams, man, They had to start all over again from scratch. That's why I say it don't take that long. If you stick to the script and be patient and exercise your plan and really see it through, once you hit that mark, you're ready to go. You see, and that's why I'm so upset as a Laker fan that we was ahead of the curve of all these teams because we had everything in place 2 years before the new decade arrived of the 2020s. The young talent, cap space was being cleared out and allocated appropriately based on performance, not based on reputation. And then all you needed to do was strike gold in the deepest free agent pool of all time, 2019. All you needed was one superstar player. You didn't have to trade for him. See, the Lakers shouldn't have been making no trades. After the 2018 season, they shouldn't have made no trade. There was no trade they didn't have to make. They already had it. All they was missing was the star player. And their young players starting to ascend. Look at what Houston is doing. OKC, Minnesota, they starting to come on now. Dallas, they got a great mixture of veteran-laden young talent in Luka. They got a veteran star player in Kyrie, but they brought in young players. Derek Lively III, P.J. Washington. Well, they drafted Lively all right. Then they acquired P.J. Washington and Daniel Gafford. You know what I'm saying? P.J. Washington from Charlotte, Daniel Gafford from Washington. And then they signed a veteran shooter like Klay Thompson. Now they on the roll. You see what I'm saying? So what I'm trying to say is, man, all this talk about young talent was expendable, draft picks were didn't carry no value. I never, ever believed in that concept, because when you're starting over again as a franchise, or even in sports when you draft, when they hold the draft every year in basketball, football, and even baseball, they don't draft veteran players. They draft young players. So my squad has been operating backwards since July 1st, 2018. And that's why we're in the situation we're in right now. You see what I'm saying? It's not an accident. It's not an accident. Meanwhile, the Hurricanes' old team, well, his real team, his home team, has the league's best record. Wow, what a coincidence. And I know Dan Gilbert is smiling from head to toe. I know he got a gleam and a beam. I know he got a gleam and a beam. And he ain't dealing with all that stress. And see, matter of fact, Cleveland could have been doing this 8 years ago. They hired Daniel. Well, kudos to I believe Cleveland head coach now is Kenny Atkinson. If I'm wrong, whoever listened to the video, if I'm wrong on that, post let me know, and I'll acknowledge that error. But now Atkinson was coaching the Brooklyn Nets. He led Brooklyn to the playoffs in 2019, the year before they got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, and then they at the behest of the two new superstars, they let go of Kenny Atkinson and brought in Steve Nash. No coaching experience. He didn't coach defense, and Brooklyn never made the finals. You see, you can't shortcut the process. That's what I'm trying to say. Same thing with the Lakers. They hired someone who ain't got no head coaching experience. Never should have been hired to begin with as head coach. And now it's showing. Now he cracking under the pressure. But what I'm saying is, man, Cleveland hired David Black to be their new head coach at the time. He was the best international coach on the scene as far as international basketball. So I was kind of like, damn, I said, man, Cleveland on the up and up now. Shit, they got Kyrie. Kyrie Irving just led FIBA basketball to USA basketball, Team USA to the FIBA basketball championship. For recent MVP of the All-Star game, the real All-Star game format. And they had drafted Andrew Wiggins. So I was like, okay, man, they got the number one pick. I said, okay, Cleveland, man, I said they in the right direction. The Hurricane comes back, flips all that up, man. Create a second super team. Okay, they went to 4 straight finals in the Eastern Conference, man. But once the talent, the assets drained out, the team collapsed. The formula does. Now, you can stack the deck out of that, but in the back end, you're not gonna have anything left, and you're gonna crash. And that's why he will go from team to team. Once the assets deplete, he out of there. See what I'm saying? But to try to justify the move, his supporters would say, well, the front office was inept. The front office didn't know what they was doing. When the front office, in the case of Cleveland, Miami, and my squad, they did everything and beyond for this guy. That's the reality. Those are the facts. Those are the stone cold facts. But if Cleveland would have stuck to the script, they could have built a foundation that could have lasted beyond the 4 years. Now, they wouldn't have gone to 4 straight finals, but shit, they only won. The one that they got, to me, was off a suspension. If it weren't for that suspension, they would have lost that one to Golden State in 2016. They lost that in 5 games. That suspension threw the whole rhythm off and the integrity of that series away. Because you essentially gave Cleveland 2 free games. The super team represented a Cleveland team. But this team right here, this team has more substance and character than the super team in Cleveland led by the Hurricane. And it's going to last longer. It's going to last longer, guaranteed. Mitchell was only like, 27? So he's entering his prime. So they're in a real beautiful position. But if they would have stuck the script, kept Andrew Wiggins more than likely would have became a better player than what he wound up being known as. As soon as Andrew Wiggins, remember he was traded to Minnesota for Kevin Love, right? Okay, so you getting traded to a team that you had no business being playing for, and you just kind of left out there to dry, right? People say, "Oh man, he was a bust, man. He ain't no good." As soon as he get traded to a legitimate team, man, that has a good leadership and utilizes his strength as a player, he contributes to Golden State winning a championship 3 years ago as the second best player on their team in the finals behind Steph Curry. So what I'm saying is, man, Cleveland probably would have been, at this point naturally if they'd have stuck with the course. So it shows you that their front office was competent. But when your superstar leaves in 2010, and then you got 3 other 4 players leave and go elsewhere, then the coach is fired, then another player is traded mid-season, you got so much disarray, there's no way in the world you're going to succeed under that situation. But his supporters will brag about it and say, well, Cleveland can't do nothing without the Hurricane. Well, he's the superstar. So quite naturally, if the superstar who they built their team around for 7 years leave and go elsewhere, of course you're going to take a hit. If Jokic left Denver right now, they going to take a hit. Same thing with Giannis. They going to take a hit. That's nothing to brag home about. But kudos to the Cleveland Cavaliers, man. They weathered this storm, man, and since 2018, and it don't take long to build a viable, establish yourself again. Just like when my Lakers won the championship in 2009, that was the result of a 5-year rebuild that started in 2004 when Shaquille O'Neal was traded to the Miami Heat, and they built that team around Kobe Bryant. That was a 5-year process, man. It don't take long as what you think. As long as you're improving every year and giving your all, man, those are the building blocks for the next year. Building block for the next year to where you find yourself one piece away. You bring in that final piece, boom, you vie for the title. That's what Cleveland is doing, man. I think it's exciting. I think it's good for the league. And all these teams that are doing it the right way, they're winning. Cleveland, Denver, Milwaukee. There's countless examples, man. Orlando's doing great. You know what I'm saying? So the league needs to move forward. I'm telling you, Memphis is back. Memphis went on the road last night and beat the Boston Celtics. Memphis is back. And they missing their rookie center, Zach Edey. I believe he got like some kind of foot injury or ankle injury. So I guess they trying to make sure he's right before they, bring him back. But what I'm saying is, man, I believe the reason why so many people are so cynical about the NBA right now is because it's not moving forward. And when I mean moving forward, I'm not talking about producing gimmicks to try to stoke interest or maintain interest. I'm talking about moving forward, promoting the young talent, highlighting, shedding the spotlight on teams doing it the right way. Because these are superstars of the past 10 years that they're aging now. They've had their run. You see what I'm saying? We saw that in the playoffs last year. All the veteran-laden teams, they got beat by the young and up-and-coming teams. It's not going to change come postseason. That's why this is where the cynicism is coming from. The frustration with the league. It needs to move forward in the most definitive way. The league always did that. After Magic and Bird had a tremendous run in the 80s, here come Jordan, Barkley, Ewing, Shaq, Penny. You know what I'm saying? For the 90s. You know what I'm saying? And then you got the Kobe years, Shaq, Duncan, Garnett, Jason Kidd, Yao Ming when he was playing. It always has to move forward, man. When the Hurricane in the league with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, the league always moved forward. The league is stuck. And I believe that's where the cynicism is coming from, man. It needs to move forward. It is time, man. It is time to start acknowledging these organizations doing it the right way and succeeding. It'll breed a more positive environment and more positive outlook on the league. So kudos to Cleveland. League's best record, 21-3. On pace to win 60-plus games and could win the title down the road. So I just want to drop that nugget. Until next time, JB for BTB, Behind the Bench.